Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What We Talk About podcast, episode 182. My name is Bret, aka Enigma911, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma911. You can drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live, join in on the fun and conversation over there. But if you can't catch it live, that's a-okay. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken down topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show: likes, subscriptions, reviews, sharing it with people you think would enjoy it. Whatever it is, it may seem small, but you can help the channel grow immensely through that, and we would appreciate you for it. Today, we're going to be talking some movies, talking some games. We're going to be talking about Rogue Legacy 2, and we're going to be talking about the future of DC films. What could work? What could make them successful, or maybe a little bit more interesting? We'll see. But let's start with Rogue Legacy 2 and my impressions of that. So, over the past couple of weeks, I've been playing a lot of Rogue Legacy 2. Heard about this game from 61 Indie and Mr. K-Step over on 61 Indie and the Trophy Room. Heard about this game for a while. Heard about the first game and how it was a very good and well put together roguelite, one of those, roguelite, in terms of gameplay and the game flow and the world building, stuff like that. And it released, Rogue Legacy 2, I believe released on PC and Xbox a while ago, but finally came over to the PlayStation brand and side of things recently, a few weeks ago. So I decided to give it a try, dive into it. And, man, I've been really enjoying my time with it. Now, if you don't know what the roguelite/like genre is, it's essentially you go in as your character, you're tackling these dungeons, tackling these monsters, puzzles, bosses, whatever. And every time you die, you essentially reset. If it is roguelike, when you die, you are hard reset. There's nothing you carry over, gain from each run. It is just start point, end point, try and make it all the way through. Roguelite is the same concept of gameplay. Live, die, play through it, get as far as you can, but then you carry over elements that will help your character improve over time. So Hades is a great example of this title that obviously blew up a few years ago and we've talked about on this podcast. But this one has similar elements where you'll carry over, your characters will grow and improve over time to kind of help your experience as a player, hopefully help you improve, get farther in the story, get farther in the game, and eventually reach the ending that you would like to. The fun with Rogue Legacy 2, probably Rogue Legacy 1 as well, is this is not the same character that you are repeating each cycle with. So, for example, Hades, which is the only really roguelite that I put a lot of time into, so I'm probably going to be drawing a lot of comparisons to it. With Zagreus, it's the same character of him. You're playing back and forth through eventually through the game. You'll learn more about his story, his relationship with the other gods, and you'll keep going through that progression with him, and he will know what journey you're on the entire time. With Rogue Legacy, the way they tell the story is it's through your legacy, it's through your heirs. So you can start with one character who's a knight, and he's going through this adventure, taking on the enemies, and eventually the forces of evil get to him, he dies, and you'll pick up with his heir. You'll get a choice of 3 that can be a variety of classes and have a variety of different attributes assigned to them. So it could be a male character that's a knight, a female that's a ranger or archer, or whoever that's this other type of character. And you get to choose what character you want. Each character has 3 definitives that are assigned to their characters. They have their weapon, which is their class. They have their ability, which is usually class specific, and then they have a magic spell that you can use. And usually that's random. There's also 2 other elements that can come at random with your heirs, which kind of adds to the fun and excitement of the game. And this could be maybe a trait on how they get their money. Maybe they only get money in chests, and it could be a really high amount, could be a really low amount, or maybe it's a gameplay mechanic where all the everything in the world is spooky, so it's like Halloween theme, or for some reason they have blue skin, or they're a clown, or it's one hit and you're dead. It's like a very wide variety of different traits and skills that you can pick from. So you kind of have to play or pick your heir to what's advantageous for you. Now, the game is nice where if they give you maybe more difficult traits that your heirs will have, for example, the one-hit KO, they'll try and entice you in playing those characters by giving you a gold buff. So like you'll get 28% more gold if you choose this heir compared to maybe a more safer heir and safer choice. If you pick them, then you'll just get the normal stuff. But it makes the game fun and exciting because of that variety that you can run into. So we've talked about the traits, but we also have the classes that you have. You have your typical like medieval-esque, journey, the knight, the archer. There's a Valkyrie character. There is a barbarian character. There's a mage. But then there's also some goofy ones that they kind of play around with. Like one is a cook or a chef. One is a boxer. So you got boxing gloves. You can go punch everything. There's... I'm trying to think of another one. I don't know if it's goofy, but there's like a dragon lancer one. And there's a samurai, and there's I think there's a bard that you can pick if you want to sing and stuff. So they have a wide variety of different classes there too, which each, typically play the same, but their weaponry and their attack is going to vary a little bit, which will add to the fun as well. So you're playing through the game, and your main objective is to get into this door, but you need to defeat, I think it's 6 bosses before you get into this door and you reach the end game, per se. And as I've been playing so far, this game's quite difficult. And it's not difficult in like a Dark Souls type thing, where it's like, oh my god, it gets frustrating at levels. It's just like, sometimes the amount of enemies on screen, not insane, but just kind of overwhelms you. Usually it leads to silly mistakes, and it's one of those things where it could get frustrating at times where your progress doesn't feel as significant as it does. However, on the flip side of the coin, I think they do a really good job of helping you grow as a character. So I mentioned the roguelite aspect of like you die, you can improve your characters and make your further runs or your future runs more beneficial, more progress being made, whatever it is. Your growth is there and you definitely feel it. The way they do this is their gold systems. So throughout the dungeons that you're going through, if you defeat enemies, you open chests, you destroy objects around the world, occasionally money will drop out, gold, you'll pick it up, and you can invest that gold into your characteristics, your traits from that point forward. So if you wanted to unlock a new character class, you can invest in that. Or you can make your attack better, or your health better, or your armor ability better, or you can carry more armor, or whatever it is. Wide variety of things that they allow you to kind of invest in to improve. And you definitely as a player see that over time, where in the first world, man, I really struggled in this area with this type of enemy. Over time, you can just blast through regions, blast through different areas like it's a cakewalk, and you'll recognize that and be like, damn, I remember being hung up here, but now just whoop, zip right through, no problem. And it's very rewarding as a player just to see that progress you're making. And that's a brilliant thing with any game design. It's just like you want that perfect slope of like difficulty and player progression of like you feel like you're making those steps even in the hardships of defeat, loss, whatever it is. It never gets to the point where it's too difficult or whatever it is that it makes you not want to stop playing. It's this nice smooth growth progression where the work you're putting in is what you're getting out in terms of reward, gameplay, story, whatever it is. And it's great to see. I had something and I lost it. What is a little... Oh, okay, sorry. Another aspect that they do that's really good is in each of the worlds, you'll learn a different ability that will allow for the gameplay to kind of expand that much more. So what I mean by that is in the base, you have your attacks, you have a dash, and over time, you'll learn different roles that will allow you to be a little bit more mobile and figure out puzzles a little bit easier. So for example, there is a spin kick maneuver that you will learn on early on. This will allow you to spin kick projectiles away or take out certain enemies or jump up to higher platforms by like ricocheting off of them. There's that. There is a dash. There's a double jump. There's other things that kind of add to your growth as a player that also helps and just makes things more interesting. One thing I wish was a little bit better was just the explanation of some of the aspects that they have in terms of saving money or the abilities you do have, what you should be investing to. Sometimes it seems like a lot of information is thrown at the player and not all of it really gets the explanation that it deserves. And it's one of those that's a little bit more steeper in the learning curve department where I'm like, I don't fully understand this mechanic. And I would say that was pretty much the only downside that I have had. Other than that, it's more of just a player experience type thing where as you get along into the story, obviously you want to progress it. So you want to get to a certain point. So let's say like it's the third world, right? You want to get to the third world's boss, beat them so you can move on. And granted, you do get the opportunity to fast travel to different locations. With this, I think most of the roguelite genre and roguelike, your dungeons, your rooms are going to be randomized. And that's here too. Rooms are all randomized, so you kind of have to search for where certain things are to improve or where the eventual doors to the next world are. You can lock these into place after a certain amount of time and after meeting a certain character, which is a great resource. So what I mean by that is if I'm trying to get to World 2, if I eventually lock it into place, it's always going to be to the right and a certain spot. So I know, okay, I can always, if I wanted to, if I didn't fast travel for whatever reason, if I want to, I know exactly where to go. I can kind of streamline that process for myself of running through World 1, to get to 2, to get to 3, to wherever it is. As a player, eventually it becomes this balancing act of like, do I want to progress the story or do I need to train up my characters? And for me, that gets a little frustrating sometimes because as a player, you want to make sure you're feeling the progress. But gold sometimes, especially with the higher upgrades that you might want to get to improve your character, gets rough. Sometimes because you can't carry everything over to the next run in terms of gold and stuff like that, you have to spend what you earn. And sometimes I don't feel like you earn enough to get a lot of requirements or growth in your characters. And that can get frustrating where you're like, okay, this run, I'm just going to run through everything and I'm just going to collect gold. And like, eventually if I get to World 3's boss to progress the story, great. If not, no worries. And there's been a couple runs where I'm like, I'm doing that approach, running through things, like I said, cakewalk, just because I am upgraded from the past experiences. Get through there, and then I'm like, okay, well, I cleared everything beforehand. I'm still doing okay. I guess I am going to go towards the next boss. And eventually, you die to something, whether you got to the boss and fought them and died, or you just happen to get hit by something too much, whatever it is. And then you get back with your gold, and you don't have that much. Maybe you can get a upgrade, or maybe it's 2, but it's not the things you want. That gets a little frustrating because it's like you feel like you have to do those upgrades in order to progress past the villains or the bosses, because if you streamline it and just go to the boss, it can work, but sometimes you're just getting knocked down over and over and over and over again, and that's where you feel stagnant in the progress. And that's, I would say, I don't think it's against the game. Maybe, like I said, it's more just a personal thing. But that's an area where it's like, that's a little bit unfortunate in terms of like, it can't just be. That's where the game loop stops and it loses interest rather than keeping it. Like I said, could just be me, because there's other games that certainly do that, as we'll call out Dark Souls again. If I'm thinking my time with Sekiro, same idea of like, yeah, there were times I just went back, killed like a bunch of stuff, cakewalk through, got my resources, and then it was like, oh, well, now we're here again. So I guess it is what it is. But I've had a lot of fun with the game. I think it's been a blast playing through it, and I've enjoyed my time with it. I think I put about 15 to 18 hours into it so far. Died quite a bit. I think I got 67 errors or something like that. Like, you can check your chain of characters, which is kind of neat and also sad. Like, oh, yeah, I've been dying a lot. But I'm about halfway through the game so far. I think I'm working towards that fourth boss. So I'm enjoying it, enjoying the story they're telling. I'm enjoying the goofy aspects of it, enjoying the side characters that I've interacted with. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes from here. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there's a ton more classes that I personally have to unlock. But hopefully the ones that will be unlocked are fun as well and have their little kind of fun gameplay elements that will make me want to play them instead of just sticking with the one or two that I have right now. They all give you different buffs if you level up their rank with them. So completing objectives, defeating enemies, stuff like that, will give you overall benefits. Like your health will be more by 1%, or your armor or whatever. So there's a benefit for dabbling into different characters. But hopefully there's some more fun ones down the line that kind of intrigue me a little bit more. But yeah, Rogue Legacy 2, a lot of fun. If you have an opportunity to play it and you like roguelite games, like Hades, like others, I definitely recommend you give it a try. I don't know if it's on Game Pass. It might be, so obviously that's your jam. Give it a try, and then yeah, if it's on PlayStation Now, so you can try it out over there. Let's move on to topic 2. Let's talk about DC films. I don't know why I wanted to talk about this one. So obviously, the DC universe, cinematic universe, what was it, DCEU, the extended universe is what they were calling it, seen a bit of a rocky path as it's been going along. From, your Superman Returns to your Wonder Woman to Batman versus Superman to Justice League to the Suicide Squads, both of them, to The Flash, which just came out, and then Shazam and Black Adam. Like, it's been kind of all over the place, and some mixed reactions. Some were good, some were not so good, some people hated, and obviously it draws a lot of comparisons to MCU, what Marvel's done with their 28 plus movies since starting with Iron Man. And it just made me think of like, okay, what could they do to be more successful? And this is very, like, obviously opinion based, duh. But like, there's no one right answer, I feel, and it's going to be one of those things like time will tell. But right now they're going through this big reboot process with James Gunn coming in and Warner Brothers kind of restructuring like what we're going to do with these films, as they weren't getting the return that they kind of wanted in terms of viewership and money, and I guess critical response. So it seems like they're doing a reboot going forward, and they've talked about it. And I'm curious to think about like what is the correct route that they should take, and by correct, what is the successful route that they should take with these movies that might be more helpful than this past iteration. So we've talked about it in the past, like the past iteration, what we thought was good, what we thought was bad, and the troubles that were at hand. And everybody's going to do it. Marvel vs. DC, compare them, right? Superhero versus superhero, how are they telling the stories, whatever. And I think that was a problem that the DC movies kind of fell into immediately. And I know that's not fair of us to do, but it's one of those general things that just kind of happens. We wanted the DC movies to be what the Marvel movies were, right? Big universe, big setups into these ultimate and climactic battles like Avengers 2, like Endgame, Civil War, whatever it may be. We wanted those, and I think the DC movies wanted that as well, as we kind of saw them playing catch up fast. And I think that's kind of what hurt them in the end with this first run, is they were trying to do too much too fast. And I think the biggest example of that is Batman versus Superman and Justice League, where Batman versus Superman, all in all, is okay, but they tried to shove a lot into that movie when it didn't need to be there. And Justice League, I think I'll lean a little bit more on this example, was the epitome of that, where you had established Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. And then in Justice League, you tried to also then cram in Flash and Cyborg on top of that, along with a villain that hadn't really been established all that much. Then you try and fix that by releasing the Snyder Cut over on HBO. And that thing was, 4 hours? And that was almost like too much of... Well, we're talking about too much and too little. That was definitely too much in 4 hours, which seems weird, but like they went further into the backstory of Cyborg, which was good. A little bit more into Flash. Then you got Darkseid, a whole nother character that was like hinted at in Justice League, but wasn't talked about. And then you got Martian Manhunter randomly popping up, and it's like, I see what you're trying to do, but it was almost nothing got explained enough in 4 hours, which doesn't make any sense, because 4 hours is a lot of time. And for some reason, they just threw everything at the wall and nothing got the time it deserved. I think Steppenwolf in the extended cut, way more interesting than the original cut. I think that was good in terms of giving him character growth, something he was chasing after, making him feel like a threat instead of just, here's random big monster of the day, here you go. And, you don't want to do it carbon copy of Marvel's movies, right? Where you had Iron Man, you had Hulk, you had Thor and Cap. You had their origin movies leading into Avengers. You could do that. Obviously, we've seen the success of that, because it's those building blocks before the big one. Not a bad step, but also you get the criticism of you're just doing exactly what they're doing. So I can see why they're doing it different. I feel like I'm talking in circles right now. I'm so sorry. But I feel like that approach at least would have benefited what they were trying to do in the long term. Which, granted, they did a little bit. You got your Superman, you got your Wonder Woman. Batman's a tricky one because we've done a bunch of different Batmans. So the Ben Affleck Batman was new in terms of Batman v Superman, right? That was his debut. So there was that. And then throwing in other ones, fine. Just, I think they were trying to do too much with them, excuse me, in too little time. So with this reboot, I don't know exactly what I'm hoping for. I want to say I'm hoping for more of a Marvel approach where, okay, it's twofold. If you want to do this big connective big collective story, universe, whatever, I think I would prefer, and granted, I know, because they literally just said, oh, Marvel did it, and it worked. I feel that works of like block, or stepping stones into big movie, right? I think you go that one and just be like, yeah, it worked. Why? If it's not broke, don't fix it. You do that. Or we go the other route, which is risky, but I could see where it works. We're just do everything separate. Don't worry about crossover. Don't worry about connective tissue. Don't worry about anything. Make Superman movies and just make them good Superman movies. Make Wonder Woman movies and just make them good Wonder Woman movies. Make Batman movies, make them good Batman movies. Like, keep everything separate. And I could get the criticism there of like doing that because we had that in the past run of DC films. Like, you had your Shazam separate until the end. Shazam was very good. I didn't watch Shazam 2, so I can't phone in on that one. Black Adam. I know the production for Black Adam was a whole thing. Not bad. And I liked you had these other characters, but like it didn't feel like we gotta explain what this character is and blah. Like, it was just like, nope, we're here. So Black Adam, not that bad. And then you had Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1, good. Wonder Woman 2, not so good. And then you had the Suicide Squads, which most of us, Suicide Squad 1, yeah. Suicide Squad 2, better, but not super great. You know, like, it's tough. It's tough if you do that too because of the past success failure rate of that. So I don't know if that's the best route either. What they seem to be doing, as far as I know, is it's going to be this connective tissue thing again. Which, fine. You need a plan and you need to work on it and let it flesh out. Don't do the everything at once. We need to play catch up Hail Mary like we did in the past iteration, where it's too much in one time, as we discussed. I'm scared already for the first Superman movie that we have announced. I think it's Superman Legacy. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that. But you got Superman, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, one or two other characters in there. It is Legacy. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm just scared. I don't need a Superman origin movie. We got that with Returns. From what I remember with Returns, it was good. It wasn't great because I don't remember a lot of it. I remember the very ending and thinking, well, that was dumb. But like, you're throwing a lot. It's the same situation. Taking a lot, throwing it at the wall, and hoping it hits. Granted, you go the Black Adam route, and where I was like, oh yeah, Hawkman's cool, Dr. Fate's cool, Adam's cool. Like, most of them worked, type of thing. It's rough. I'll agree. Jeff in chat bringing up James Gunn. He's really good at balancing multiple characters once in a story. I agree. And that's where I think, okay, this is good. You have a figurehead that, like a Feige, that can plan this out. And yes, Gunn has shown with his track record of Guardians 1 through 3, and I'm sure other movies, but obviously those are the ones that stick in my head, of like multiple characters, multiple arcs, what they're telling with those characters. Maybe not everybody got the shining light in every movie, but at some point they did. He's got a good track record with those, so hopefully going forward, yeah, DC, this was a good pickup for DC. Now the question comes into play, because The Batman, very good. I know it was a long movie, very good. You're continuing that. What about all the other stuff? Like, is it just going to be another Batman? Are we not going to include Batman in this? Just keep him his own separate track path? Like, Does it get confusing for people as I sink down into my chair? Oof. Like, do you just wipe the board completely? Like, yeah, bye Zachary Levi. Yeah, bye Dwayne. I think he was already gone. Yeah, bye Gal Gadot. Like, everything clean slate, and then Robert Pattinson's just over here being Batman, and then everything else is new? I think that's the case. But that's rough. Oof. I don't know. Let's see. DC was like, oh, we see how to build this. We can skip the actual slow building after watching Marvel. It's like watching someone try to build build a shelf who only watched a YouTube channel without looking at proper tools and stuff. Exactly. Like, I get it of the catch up. Like, oh crap, we're behind. But yeah, it didn't pay off. It didn't work. And it's unfortunate because, like, it's an exciting prospect, right? The Avengers movie, the Justice League movie. We are seeing this big team-up movie in like a new cinema field. That's awesome. And unfortunately, it just wasn't as awesome as we thought and just kind of, like, let us down. I don't know. It's weird. So, there's a lot up in the air. And like I said, I'm just another guy on the internet ranting and raving about this. It's rough. I don't know from a fan perspective what I want, because, like, there are DC stories that I really enjoy. I really enjoy Batman stuff, Arkham games, the Lego Batman games, the animated stuff, like, that's all good. Animated Justice League from back in the day was great. I know people talk a lot about Young Justice now. I haven't watched that. I know. Injustice storyline's fantastic. Like, there are DC stories and DC characters that I really enjoy, but I'm trying to think of, like, what is going to get my butt in seats at the theater. Like, I didn't go see Shazam 2. I didn't go see The Flash. I didn't go see Black Adam in the theaters. Like, I tried excuse me. I tried Batman vs. Superman. Yeah. Tried the original Suicide Squad. Nope. Tried Justice League. Meh. Wonder Woman 1. Liked it. Wonder Woman 2. Nope. Aquaman. Nope. And then Shazam. Yay. I think Shazam was the last one I saw in theaters. So, like, what can they do to get me, maybe a more casual DC fan, in there? I don't know. I don't know if it's just more of, like, I guess what I said earlier, I prefer the building block method. I think that's what I want. If you're going to do something connective tissue, it's got to be interesting and it's got to be building block. But it's an uphill battle right now where there's a lot of sour taste, I think, in people's mouths. And they got to build that back up. And that might be rough. It might be rough. I don't know what could push past that in, like, yeah, I definitely need to go see that movie type of thing. Like, I thought The Flash would be that for me, but I think outside factors of Ezra's stuff played into that. Granted, I know that's not the studio's part. The studio's part was delaying that thing for 4 years or whatever it was. That was probably the icky in my taste from their perspective. But, like, the Ezra stuff and them going through their issues, like, that from me was like, oh, I don't really care for that. But, like, everything before that stuff came out was interesting. You get Keaton as Batman again. You get these cameos. You get this time travel story narrative. Like, that's interesting in a solo movie, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, unfortunately, the real life stuff and then the delays were just like, I don't know. And granted, maybe I'll watch it. I do want to watch it. It's just like, it wasn't enough of a driving force to go out to the movie theater, to buy a ticket, blah, blah, blah. But once it comes to Max, yeah, I'm going to give it a try, and I might like it. Like, I hear there's a lot of cameos in it. Luckily, haven't been spoiled on much or anything. So, like, I'm excited to see that, but it was the division of, like, yeah, these things are here. It's not going to push me to go out to that point, which I think is their biggest draws, like the movie ticket sales not necessarily anything that comes after, obviously, the streaming stuff. So it's like, yeah. It's about making characters relatable and interesting, says Jeff. Did anyone really care about Peacemaker until Gunn put him in Suicide Squad in a show, and now he's somehow in Mortal Kombat? Exactly. Like, I had no idea about Peacemaker. He was a great part in Suicide Squad 2. I haven't watched the series yet, so I can't vouch for that. But yeah, like, that's a character that blew up. That's 100% right. Like, that's something that has been done well. And I feel like Shazam is another one. Like, obviously not to the scale of Peacemaker, at least in terms of, like, permeating these other mediums or media. But, like, that's a win. Like, the Batman series or movies so far, I think, have all been pretty much hits. Like, yeah, there was definitely lower points. Like, Clooney's Batman was a low point. And even though I love Batman Forever, most people put that lower on their rankings. Obviously the Bale Batmans were great. The Pattinson one, like, as far as I know, people really liked it. Once again, it was long. If that was a complaint of yours, totally fair. Totally get that. I don't know. It's a very, very weird of, like, thinking of what they could do. And granted, I'm not responsible for any of these decisions, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, Batman movies will always sell well because he has good villains. And actually nailing a good Batman is incredibly difficult. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the villains are definitely... That is true. Like, why I enjoy Batman a lot? Yeah, because of who's going against him. Like, you're right. He's got a great rogues gallery of villains. Like, obviously you got Joker's the standout. But then you got Riddler, who I really like. You got Harley Quinn. You got Bane. You have Ra's al Ghul. You have, Penguin. You have Two-Face, if you want to get really in the, and it's a deep library too. Like, Mad Hatter's in there, and fucking the guy who cuts himself. Like, I only know a lot of this from the Arkham games too, but, like, yeah, he's got a lot of people that are cool. Scarecrow, another great one. Like, Zaz, thank you. Like, yeah, he's got interesting ones. Like, who does Superman have? Oh, well, Zod, another dude from Krypton. He's got Doomsday, a big scary monster. He's got Darkseid, which also, as far as I only know, big scary monster. Like, Wonder Woman's got Cheetah, which I was stoked when they put Cheetah in too. And then I was like, okay. Ares, magical dude. Aquaman has anti-Aquaman. Man in scuba suit. I mean, Black Manta wasn't that bad, but there's that. Shazam and Black Adam are opposites. Yeah, that's fair. It's like the villains, are a drawing force there. I don't know. I read the Supergirl arc of Batman Superman as an amazing Batman Darkseid moment. Ooh, cool. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and granted, it could just be me of, like, yeah, I'm into DC, but I don't know as much of the DC lore as I do the Marvel lore, and, like, oh, that's why you're not going to be interested in these. They have to find some way to permeate me as a comic book fan in terms of, like, things going on, not reading the issues week to week, but permeate me enough, or not permeate, inspire me enough to go out to the movies, and then do that with the general audience too, of, like, do that. Like, okay, Blue Beetle, cool character. Who's going to see that in the general audience? Just, I don't know. I don't know how many people are going to give that a chance. And that's not fair to me, just be like, poo-poo it immediately. It's just a question in my head. Like, I hope that movie does well. It looks good. I think the actor portraying him is doing a great job. I'm appreciating that they're giving the character a chance, even though this universe is going to restart, so it doesn't even matter. I don't know. Like, is that a strong enough character or intriguing enough to a general audience that's going to be like, oh yeah, got more popular after the Young Justice animated series. Yeah, like Blue Beetle's another one that I feel like has popped up more and more recently than ever. Young Justice, he was in Injustice 2. I think that was the first time I had ever seen him, but we'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, I just wanted to go on that rant. DC films, they're restarting. They're doing their thing. Hope they could figure out what they want and, be successful with it. Because these are great characters with great stories. It's just a matter of finding that new way to tell them, I guess, and hopefully expand. And there's a lot of things they're playing against. We didn't even talk about superhero movie fatigue. Like, is it too little, too late? Who knows? But before I keep rambling and saying the whole same things over and over again, this has been another episode of the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. Usually live over there. You can drop us, Jesus Christ, butchered. You can drop a follow over there. Let you know when we go live. You'll get notified. You can join on the fun and the chaos like Jeff Rainbow Mrs. G did today. Join the fun and the chaos and conversation over there if you'd like. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services. The very next week, it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, likes, subscriptions, reviews, shares, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you do that, take the time to do it. I would appreciate you for it. And, be great. Thanks for giving this a watch, giving it a listen. Appreciate your time. Sorry for the absence. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.